I feel like there's voices in my head telling me to go on this route. Okay, keep going. Keep going.
But yeah, she was trying to describe what these no-yets were telling her, and she was like, every time she tries to even think about them, she feels like physically ill, because they would just like constantly threaten her and talk about these graphic details about torturing her and stuff, and it was just like horrible stuff. And just these people deal with this like day in, day out. And a lot of these people said like they're getting therapy and treatment, and it's just a constant battle. Like that, some things work, some medications work to try and sort of silence it out, but for the most part, it just sort of keeps coming back stronger and stronger, and it's just horrible for these people. But anyway, so I kind of went into a bit of a top 10. It's a top 7, not quite 10. But I didn't realize there were so many different kinds of psychoses, hallucination things that would, these delusional sort of things that would happen to people.
All right, top 7.
All these different syndromes. But here we go. Top 7. So 7 is Ekbom syndrome. So patients with Ekbom syndrome, also known as delusional parasitosis. So they strongly believe they're infested with parasites. They're crawling under their skin, and they report this sensation of itching and being bitten under the skin, and they can't get rid of it. And obviously they, scratch holes in themselves trying to get at these things. It feels like a lot of like, when people talk about like meth users and stuff having these horrible, like seeing bugs crawling under their skin and like scratching holes in themselves and stuff. Anyway, that's messed up. Othello syndrome, named after the Shakespeare character Othello, involves a paranoid belief that the sufferer's partner is cheating. People with this condition express strong obsessive thoughts that may show aggression and violence.
That's actually a disorder. I just thought that was just like a
it was just
boyfriend.
like a commonplace. Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know.
Capgras delusion. Patients with Capgras delusion believe that an imposter has replaced a person they feel close to, such as a friend or spouse. And yeah, this one is believe. I think this was called something else too that I was looking at, but people believe that people around them have been replaced by like a doppelganger or clones, and they're not the real person that they knew, and that they're it's part of this big conspiracy. That's a huge thing as well, is believing that there's this conspiracy that you're involved. You're the center of this thing. A lot of gang stalking, all this kind of stuff is kind of related to this, where you believe that everyone around you is like out to get you, like Truman Show kind of thing.
But isn't that like that's a trait that a lot of people in the government conspiracy space seem to have, that I wouldn't necessarily say they have a disorder, but they kind of like everyone's out to get them, somebody's a clone, you know what I mean?
I mean, we definitely know people, I guess, that we've worked with that have constant, like, we've talked to them. They have constant belief that all this is going on, and that they're part of this whole conspiracy. And, yeah. I mean, you
interesting.
Can see it.
Yeah.
So
alien hybrid programs. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh yeah, like all that stuff, like cloning and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Those people aren't crazy.
Number 4 is lycanthropy. Obviously, believing you're a
my
werewolf.
favorite. Yeah, this is a good one.
I love a bit of Dogman action.
Yeah. This is Dogman? Wait, what?
Well, it's kind of like believing you're a wolf or other animals, not just a wolf. Like, there's people who believe they were turning into dogs, pigs, frogs, snakes, even reptiles, which is interesting.
Really?
Reptilians.
So
it's the reptilians.
Lame. Wolf is the coolest one, or like a tiger.
I'm definitely a
or like
panda.
A Wolverine.
That's for sure.
Imagine turning into a frog. What a fucking piece of shit.
Eating mosquitoes and shit.
I want to be a wolf, man.
Yeah.
Wolf man. So, lycanthropy was an interesting one, but we all know about that. So, number 3 was what we talked about to begin with, Charles Bonnet syndrome, whatever it is.
Okay.
So, the visual hallucinations. And then, so number 2, Walking corpse syndrome. This one was kind of interesting. This is where it's also called Cotard syndrome. And I actually know this because I watched the series Hannibal, and there was a girl who had this, where you believe that you're dead. You're rotting from the inside. You're a walking corpse, basically.
Bananas.
I feel that way when I'm hungover sometimes, but
yeah,
other than that.
I was like, yeah, I can relate to that. But yeah, people basically just starve themselves because they don't feel like eating. They just believe that they're dead, and they just kind of die of starvation eventually if they're not treated.
What the fuck?
What?
Yeah, they just like they don't wash or anything. They don't sleep. It's just they're walking around like believing they're a zombie.
Well, I definitely didn't have that because I always.
I bet they still jerk off. I bet they're still working one out. Yeah, there's no way they went full zombie. Give me a break, those fucking people.
Yeah, that was I don't know why we went there, but all right.
One more time before I die.
I'm a zombie, but I still fuck.
Oh my god!
Zombies fuck. Zombies fuck.
Yeah.
They have to.
Just awkward.
Doesn't their stuff
slow.
fall off if
mouth.
they have sex? I don't know.
Yeah,
just thought.
it's not pretty. It's a lot of dry.
It's humping. It's a lot of
dry
fingering.
humping.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
A lot of
Good to
fingering
know.
and dry humping. Yeah.
Number one.
And number one, and I found this one like crazy. It's called Alice in Wonderland syndrome, and it's a bizarre, distorted perceptions of time and space, similar to what kind of Alice in Wonderland is said to experience in Lewis Carroll's The Adventures of Alice in Wonderland. But patients with Alice in Wonderland syndrome describe seeing objects or parts of their bodies as smaller or bigger than their actual size or an altered shape. And these individuals may also perceive time differently. So it's almost like either like time stands still or it's like rushing past them, which is kind of crazy.
Whoa.
I didn't even know how to describe that.
That's crazy.
Anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
And
Actual
there you
things
go,
that can
everybody.
happen.
There's
So
your list of
good luck to
crazy
you all.
things.
Yeah.
All right, Josh.
Let's get into the scary mirrors.
What's reflected back to you?
Well, once again, I found something awesome. Not to brag about myself, but I just did. So I got into this, and I started researching weird shit. I got into mirrors, and I was like, I'm going deep on mirrors. I'm going to find some new shit about mirrors. I came across some old mirrors, new mirrors. I found out that the Romans believed that mirrors or any reflective surface was a reflection of the human soul and must not be misused, or something terrible could happen. Mirrors
mirror on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. And like hundreds of years, people would just like in different societies would cover up mirrors when someone was dying in the house because they thought like death would come to the mirror and take their soul.
Uh-huh.
So mirrors are creepy.
Yeah.
We know this. We grew up with mirror stories, right?
That's actually, just to pull you up right there, that's actually a big part of, isn't that, Melissa, have you ever smudged a house before with sage?
Yes.
So isn't that part of it? You got to cover up the mirrors before you do that?
Well,
yes.
interesting you say that, Matt.
That.
Yeah, okay. All right, yeah. Carry on.
Hey, you look like a witch. No, the story ends with that, though.
Yeah, you over there, witch. Okay, all right, sorry, go on.
She's a witch!
No, the story ends with them doing that. They sage it. They use a singing bowl. They cover it. There's a whole thing to this story, but it was really cool, actually. Like I first was going to go back to my one of my great buckets, Greg and Dana Newkirk, and their website. They have an interesting mirror there. It's a great story. Yep. I wanted to cover it from the next mirror story, but this one was interesting. I found on YouTube something that happened like a week ago, and like really recent. And I came across it just Googling, like, haunted mirrors, evil mirror. And it's a story. I came across this video, and it just starts in someone's closet in North Carolina. And the video is confusing. I'll piece together the story for you, but as you're watching it, kind of like the story comes out all jagged. All you got to know is the people in the story are so authentic. They're all jazzed up. It's just after, apparently, they had a big exorcism. But what the story is, what they're in is a closet, and they're about to pull the mirror out. And it's about these investigators. So the person filming is from this museum called it's called something. It's called the Haunted something. I gotta write this time code down.
I love the Haunted something. It's so cool.
Haunted something.
It's called the Cryptozoology and Paranormal Museum. And the guy who runs it's filming it.
Boom.
He's an awesome character. So this story is crazy because it ties into everything we're talking about. And from the abuse to seeing things and attachments, the whole 9 yards. But this looks like to be a real case of what he's calling, the investigators are calling, demonic possession. They're definitely seeing it through the lens of Christianity, which is interesting because they even get into later, there's another explanation given to what it is. But here's a quick breakdown of what happened in this house. It was everything you could think of. So this house was a family, and it was focused around a young girl who was horribly abused, at least sexually. And there was a lot of abuse in the family, and a lot of horrible things going on, which we know attracts poltergeist or attracts some sort of negative entities that love that shit. So we were talking earlier about how abuse can trigger these things in your life, and maybe they can trigger actual psychotic, actual things in your brain that are not related to supernatural things. But what this is a case of, what this is proof of, could be proof of, is how these moments can also bring in something truly dark. So what are they witnessing?
Do you know how they... Sorry, I just had to jump in here real quick. Do you know how they say that poltergeist activity a lot of the time has related to a excuse me,
prepubescent,
choking on my own rage here. A prepubescent young girl who's either prepubescent or actually just about going through puberty. They say that sometimes triggers poltergeist activity for whatever reason.
Without any sexual abuse?
Yeah, usually it's not related to sexual abuse at all, but yeah, for whatever reason, poltergeist activity has been linked to young girls who are going through puberty. Whatever energy is released during that time, I don't know. But maybe, I don't know, maybe abuse. Man, this is getting dark as fuck.
This is getting really dark.
Abuse seems to be a factor also. But anyway, sorry.
Don't worry, I'll make this story fun, even though it involves horrible abuse.
Let's bring it back out of the darkness.
This is not Scary Time, Matt. Okay, go ahead.
This is Scary Situation done by Josh, so it seems fun, but it's not. That's what this is.
Okay.
So here are the characters in the room. It's a fireman guy. He's the lead investigator. He's a fireman. There's a guy named Frank, and he looks like a Frank. Tattooed dude. And then there's this, I think there's a young woman named Stephanie in there, and they talk about a woman named Dolores. So apparently Dolores was a conduit psychic. So this YouTube video is just them in the room with this mirror they take out of the closet, and everyone immediately starts feeling weird emotions, and the gambit happened. So it wasn't just like, I had bad thoughts. This thing physically was attacking the men and trying to drive the men away from the women. It would scratch them. They all had scratch marks on their arms. What? They would have negative thoughts about their life. Like anything that was going wrong, they would really have to think about. They would see full-blown apparitions, which was crazy. They would see it multiple times in multiple different ways, which this is where it gets interesting when perception matters and your own perception of how you grew up and how you witnessed the world and how that changes what you see. Because they saw a tall, dark figure, darker than night. Like if it was in a dark room, you'd still see it. It was so damn dark. And they thought it was like Slender Man. Like it was trying to show them Slender Man. And they're like, what the hell's going on here? So
interesting.
They would see a pigman shaped dark figure, like a pigman, which was creepy. And then they would see little imp like creatures, and these little imp things and he started Googling them, and they look exactly like the demon they thought it was, which I'll get to in a second. So let me just back up a little bit. So while they're figuring out this case,
it's only the men who see these creatures.
No, so the men, everyone saw the creatures. The women in the house, the men, everyone. So the creatures only physically attacked the men, and were trying to divide the men from the women. That's what they came to figure out. They were trying to basically possess the women, whatever it was, and it was trying to just kick the men away. It was trying to scare them. It would do all sorts of scary things. It would like show itself and like be all big and tough and tall in the corner, and like, you know, or it would try to purposely scare the men in many different ways, from shutting a door really loudly to messing with them to making them feel like shit. And it was trying to get at the women because it was all focused around one young woman who you never see on camera. They just talk about it.
That's some big dick energy.
Wait, hold on a second. Wait, so were the men in the house abusing the women? Because you just said there was abuse going on.
Yeah, so this is why it's confusing. The video itself, you have to piece it together. So all we're focused on is a story being told by the paranormal investigators, which is being filmed by the guy who runs a museum who's there to take the mirror in. That's what the guy's there for. He's there to take the mirror in, so they're filming them recalling the story. In that house, there was a woman who was abused, and that house had a lot of abuse in it. So whatever happened to that house, it was really terrible and sprung all this, and these guys were called in. So what they come to find out was this young girl was messing around with an Ouija board, and she invited something, and she was abused on a Ouija board, and what they thought it was Zozo, the demon Zozo.
Zozo. Oh. Yeah, okay.
Now
that motherfucker.
We talked about him before.
Listen, Zozo, if you're listening, I apologize for calling you a motherfucker. I don't want any trouble.
Zozo.
Carry on.
Well, yeah,